Welcome to WYCD Wicked. That stands for What You Can Do. It's the show where we show you what folks are talking about around the internet, and then we tell you what you can do about it. My name's Jake, and boy, there are some songs which I cannot play here on the show. I've got like a collection of music I can play. One offered by audio, another offered by YouTube. But unfortunately, what I cannot play for you live on the stream is a song I recommend. It's called Wolf Totem by The Who, H-U. And I recommend it because I feel that it's got the sort of scrappy attitude that decent people around the world should adopt these days. In fact, already have adopted. I feel like it speaks to the soul. Just like Fortunate Son or War by Edwin Starr back in the day really spoke to a moment. I feel that Wolf Totem is that for us now. Because I'm feeling scrappy. I'm feeling, relentlessly optimistic, aggressively positive. Ruthlessly helpful. I think that's the sort of attitude we are adopting as time goes on. In other words, the good guys are winning because we're sick of the nonsense. And if you are a fellow good guy joining me, like Rustbox, hello, Wireless Mike, the anti-corporatist, and Wicked Foxy Dragon, hello. I feel that song was made for you. What the hell? I'll risk it. There it is in the comments. Man, oh man. Save the link for later. I don't know why I've put that in. Anyway, we have a lot of fun ones today. I think we should really continue our celebration of victories, particularly because they involve, to some degree, petty gloating, which for me, that's catnip. I mean, come on. Let's kick it off with Sam Cedar dancing on the grave of Steven Crowder's career. So Steven Crowder is by no means done. He's still going to be a force for evil out there doing his wicked works. But let's just calls it like it is. The man has been exposed to the greater world for what his ideology results in. He's constantly talking about a woman's place being all these places that are coincidentally below men. Well, what does that look like at home? At home, that's an abusive relationship. That's what it looks like. And for exposing this, I think in part we have to give credit to a champion of decency in the early 21st century, Sam Cedar. Let's have a look at the Majority Report with one of the funniest Emma Vigeland moments I've ever seen, discussing the downfall of Steven Crowder.
Steven Crowder, despicable guy, made millions and millions of dollars by being a homophobe, transphobe, a racist, a misogynist. He is in some hot water now for, the way that he's been monetizing his kids in the divorce. And I mean, just what amazes me with this guy is, he's been doing this for a long time. Mm-hmm. Like when Ethan Klein invited me on and we confronted him, and like he handled it so poorly. His first reaction was like, "Oh my God, what a nightmare!" And he was trying to be sarcastic, I think.
I really want to really underline this moment so the internet never forgets it. Steven Crowder fled Let's see if Sam explains the context. If not, oh boy, I
about
will.
it, but it was clear like he couldn't even manage that. And then when he admitted that he'd been monitoring our show because he was so afraid at the idea that I would come on and debate him, like, what difference does it make whether you debate me or Ethan? Do you like you could do
The 15-second background. So, Steven Crowder was going to debate Sam Cedar, and then he backed out. Over years, he kept fleeing from Sam Cedar's debates because Steven Crowder would say he'd debate anybody, but he kept debating college students. So when Sam Cedar stepped up, it appears that Steven Crowder's dad advised him not to do it, knowing that Sam would wipe the floor with him. Well, Sam stood in for Ethan Klein, who is not a debate guy, who was challenged by Steven Crowder, of course, to debate. And when Sam appeared on his stream, Steven Crowder panicked so badly that he revealed his fear of Sam Cedar, his sheer terror of the left dread that is Sam Cedar, the cold finger of death that comes with debating this man. And he revealed that he, of course, had been monitoring Sam Cedar's show just to make sure he never had to debate that man. That's how afraid of Sam Cedar Steven Crowder was. And then after, the Sam appeared on his show, Steven literally fled from his own set, and then went to the hospital to have his heart worked on. Sam Cedar will introduce you to God if you dare debate him.
the topics, but to admit that he'd been monitoring the show was basically saying, like, I've been terrified of this happening, and it happened.
He didn't even mean to admit it. He just got so scared in the moment that it just came out.
How do you not have that type of self-control? And then the dude, when he's like faced with not being coddled by his, what was he on Blaze TV, I guess? Yeah. He somehow thinks that he's going to make these other conservatives look bad because they're asking for an exploitive contract. That's like fundamental to their ideologies. And he somehow thinks that's going to make people sympathize with him. He just undercut his own ideology. And then 4 months after Candace Owens says something that hints that she might know about his divorce and the way that he acted.
It's spiraling, she said.
He, out of the blue, basically says, I'm going to protect my children by not talking about my divorce. And nobody was talking about his divorce.
Yeah, also I picked wrong.
Yeah, and I picked wrong.
That's the one mistake he made.
I complained about like the state of Texas giving my wife the right to file for a divorce, essentially. Like she shouldn't have that right.
Which, by the way, was weird but believable, but also apparently not true because he apparently made the first moves toward divorce by getting a lawyer.
Well, that could have been a power play, much like, only having one car despite being a millionaire.
And then she comes out with, releases this information. And the thing for him to do throughout all of this would have been, look, I've gotten divorced. It's no fun. Neither one of us probably acted in the way that we would hope, just like most people who go through divorces that are rancorous. It's ugly and I don't like it, but this is all I want to say about it. I wish her well. And, the fault lies probably with both of us. Maybe more. I mean, this is an easy thing
That's what
to sort of say,
do. Yeah.
and it's really the only appropriate thing to do. I mean, I can see talking about your divorce if you're like, working through it, and you think that there's some help and advice, and explain your mistakes. That's not what he was doing, and so he never does this. She comes out with this stuff, and then he comes out. Remember, just a week ago, he was saying he wanted to protect his kids. Now he's talking about releasing his ex-wife's medical records in part of this like growing war.
Yeah, before this clown opens his mouth, I just want to stress, when you see him there, flapping his lips, remember that his enemies in this situation are his soon-to-be ex-wife, or I guess his ex-wife now, who was pregnant with his 2 children. when he was hollering at her and telling her to give dogs medication and refusing to allow her to use their one car while he was sitting on his duff at home. That's who this guy is. But okay, let's see what other clownery he's got to say.
I commented on my ongoing divorce on Tuesday, requesting privacy in the best interest of the family, but also by court order agreed upon by all parties. Look, broken marriages are ugly, and in them people do ugly things. Myself, of course included, I would never claim otherwise. However, due to recent misleadingly edited leaks to the tabloid press without context and not subject to consequences of the court, well, if not privacy, the next best option is truth. So today, I have filed a motion to officially unseal all files as they relate to the matter of legal record. Finances, relevant medical records, including mental health history or evaluations, depositions, and any motions or sanctions from the courts of Texas.
Remember, this guy's ex doesn't have a show for which to air their grievances on. He's trying to make this seem like they're in some sort of a mighty back and forth. This guy has a show. His ex doesn't. This guy has a theoretically millions of fans, any one of which might act a little crazy. His ex doesn't. Just if you're the sort of person that watches this guy, you should understand that's what you're supporting with your views.
I will not be.
There's a reason I use every possible opportunity to filter this stuff through a channel which is, not contributing to evil to view.
Leaking private marital information to the press, but if the privacy agreements are not respected by all parties, I will address all that is a matter of irrefutable legal record in full context next week.
What was the context in which Steven Crowder sitting on his ass as his wife, who's 8 months pregnant with 2 babies, not just one, but 2, smoking a cigar, telling her to do her wifely duties and give the dogs medicine despite her concerns that the medicine would be toxic to the children, pro-life Steven Crowder, saying, just put on some gloves. I'm just going to sit on my ass and I need to call my friends. What context would that have been kind of more appropriate in, is my question.
He's going to try and say that she deserved all of it because she has mental issues. And what is also interesting is
as opposed to him, right. As opposed to Steven Crowder, the bastion of mental stability here, right?
It's clear that he has an NDA of some sort.
Wait a minute. Oh, Jesus. I need that from Emma Vigeland one more time. Look at this eyebrow. Or not eyebrow. Look at the eye flutter. Oh, I feel you, Emma. Watch this.
It's clear that
No. Here we go.
This
is my favorite Emma Vigeland moment in history thus far.
Has mental issues. And what is also interesting is
as opposed to him, right. As opposed to Steven Crowder, the bastion of mental stability here, right?
It's clear.
As opposed to Steven Crowder, she says. Yeah, Emma. Oh my God, I adore that human being. She can't stand the audacity. I love it.
That he has an NDA of some sort, as he claims that, like,
had me howling.
And no penalties from the court. It's like saying, can you tell my wife to shut up before I have to do more?
And it's clear that the NDA that he had, or whatever agreement that they had to be quiet, was about court records and proceedings within the divorce, and not like what actually went on outside of the divorce, the confines of what was raised within the legal battle. So this is information that apparently never probably made it within the context of the divorce, and therefore she cannot be legally sanctioned for releasing it. It's just information. And I suspect this also explains why we did not see some of this other audio that is his name Yasher Ali?
Yasher, yeah.
Has, because that stuff could be seen on background, and maybe she could be sanctioned if she released that. This is complete conjecture on my part. And so that's what's going on here. But the guy is going to war with his children's mother. And let's be clear here that he started this whole thing ostensibly to protect the children, and is now using his platform to target his ex-wife, really potentially jeopardizing the children in an extreme way. I mean, this is, like, look, in the context of divorces, I certainly am aware of stories, fortunately, to the extent that, we did anything right in our divorce, we never did this. But people will do stuff to hurt the other person that involves the children. And they'll do it in, it's done in the context of the divorce or the proceedings. And, invariably it's difficult to the children. To do it this publicly. Mm-hmm. And let's be clear, this is not like paparazzi is sniffing around trying to find out what happened during the Crowder divorce. He is using his children and his platform as a way of punishing her. It is so demented, but also, frankly, completely consistent with what this guy has done with his platform. This conservative sort of ideology. We see it with libs of TikTok. We saw it with Tucker Carlson.
I am not going to repeat what Sam's about to say. I just want to really bring everybody's attention to this part in particular. Because here we have a specific person, Steven Crowder's ex, and it's easy to forget that this guy does this every single day. Every single day. So by all means, empathize with Crowder's ex, but remember what Sam Cedar is about to tell you.
This is what we saw with Bill O'Reilly and Tiller. I mean, this is all part of a whole. This is not in any way unique. It's just that because his fan base is made up of people who want to attack trans people, want to attack gay people, want to attack broadly women who want any autonomy. They haven't seen it so clearly. But now he's crossing the line, and it's becoming obvious to his audience what his tactics are. And maybe some of them are realizing, like, hey, wait a second. Weaponizing this platform against his ex-wife is bad, but also weaponizing this platform against, a random trans person or a random gay person or all trans people or all gay people. Maybe that's wrong too. But this is what they do.
It's what the abuse that he advocates for looks like in practice. And I mean, it's about hierarchies and white male domination of everybody, as Sam says, right? It's gay people, trans people, but within the home, it's of a woman. And just to return to the point, from earlier, I am hung up on the car thing because we know that Crowder was just offered $50 million or whatever from the Daily Wire, and we know that he makes a lot of money, and yet he still thinks that it's incumbent upon him to make his wife his maid. Where, I mean, I don't think he has an ideological opposition to having a few more cars because of climate change, or for having someone around the house who could do things for them because of the labor practices. My guess is that that's not how he feels. So the point is that it's just about power. And it's also...
She had to ask permission to use the vehicle.
There you go. And like it's also about power too, in that he's using his platform for this threat. Because like, not to use Candace Owens' point as a reference, but I mean she's right about this one thing, using it to her advantage, very cynically for sure.
Before she says that, I just want to say there's the what you can do, by the way. Bring it to people's attention that this is how these folks operate. Bring it to people's attention that this is what the other side of the ideology they preach looks like. We're going to get into that more in about 60 seconds. But this is the home life of somebody that thinks and acts like Steven Crowder does. Andrew Tate, all that nonsense he was talking, what did it look like at home? It looked like literally keeping women enslaved. Enslaved. Don't let people forget that.
But that his wife doesn't have a platform. Like, she doesn't have the ability to come on there and speak to I don't know how many millions of people tune into Crowder's show and speak about her grievances. Like, he took the first shot. Maybe someone in her family spoke to Yashar Ali and said that out there. But the point is that he made it public to monetize it. She chose to try to take some of her power back and say, like, no, this is what the abuse looked like. And now he's threatening to release her medical records. That's the guy that Crowder is. He could have taken this as an opportunity for self-reflection, but that would be a little scary for him, because inside of his mind and inside of his heart, it's a very dark place and he doesn't want to go there.
Just a fantastic recap by the Majority Report. Okay, so why are we talking about Steven Crowder? I mean, really? Well, it's because even though this is his personal life, we're at a point where we need to draw attention to this. We can't just assume other people know this. A lot of his fans, a lot of the fans of Andrew Tate, a lot of the fans of Ben Shapiro, they think that when you treat women like objects, when you treat people like things, they think the end result is like a utopia. They think, oh, we're going to have an end to all this deviance and all these other secondary things they view as secondary, like, you know, school shootings, crime in the streets, whatever else they can attribute to people not living the kind of horror show lives that they pitch on air. They think it's a utopia that this builds. It isn't. What it results in is some pig puffing on a cigar in front of his pregnant wife, telling her to go give the dogs the medication, making her get an Uber instead of taking the one car that they have. Doesn't matter how much money they make. Can't have two cars. That gives up control. Results in weak men like Steven Crowder. It results in terrified women and children going through trauma. It results in sex slaves in Romania. Just remember what the end of this looks like, what this pipeline results in, and make sure when you come across somebody that has fallen for this grift, make sure they are reminded of what kind of life they're building for themselves. Because if they follow everything Steven Crowder says to do, their life will look exactly like Steven Crowder's, except for all the fame and money. And they should ask themselves if that's something they really want. See what y'all have to say. Ooh. We got some interesting ones. Wireless Mike, I friggin' love Emma. Oh, hey, Dean Oldfield, good to see you. Oh my God, Wicked Foxy Dragon says, I took everything my ex-husband owned, all of his tools, pictures, computers, video games, and took it out to the garbage. I had to buy beer for my garbage guys. LOL, but it was worth it. Oh, well, I'm glad you got the better of that. Let's see. Off Time says, so much for Build Back Better. That is super off topic, but fair enough. Wicked Foxy Dragon says, smooth Jake, good transition. I thank you. Thank you very much. I'm trying to take lessons from Jordy. I swear to God, that guy over on Midas Touch is the master of sliding in there with some business. I'll let the Wicked Senate in on this, and I won't record the VOD for others. I'm trying to animate a gag, and this is going to ruin the gag for most of you, but why not? Trying to animate a gag where it's a Pixel Progressives, but halfway through, and by the way, I'm doing them longer now because YouTube Shorts, the whole thing. But halfway through, there's an ad for like something Midas Touch is trying to sell, and it's done by Jordy, and it's animated, and it just slides into the middle of a totally unrelated thing. I find that deeply funny. All right, we have speaking of, an update from Midas Touch about the state of Trump's legal representation. You know what? I got to record the intro for this. I got to record it. And Off Time, heads up. Brother, we love having, believe it or not, we love having differing opinions in here. But I'm going to give you a warning, and I'll tell this to the wicked mods as well. If you can't stay on topic, we gonna silence you. Reason being, we don't put up with nonsense. So you're welcome to debate, but it's got to be on what we're talking about. There's got to be a through line. And if somebody asks you for clarification, you got to give it. Also, remember, if you're out there debating Off Time, whoever is the person who's talking to him, just that person. That's the only person that should address them, other than a moderator giving warnings. I'm curious to see how you do. I got the live chat replay on this. I do look through it, and I'm curious to see how you do. Maybe we can change some minds, or maybe Off Time we'll change your old pal Jake's mind. We'll see. But let's talk about Midas Touch. I have been wondering for some time whether Trump's attorneys are actually dumb, or if they just have like an impossible case to represent, and so they can't help but look dumb because they're told, to what do they call it? To defend an untenable case. It's a tough one because they really do have really impossible expectations set forth by Donald Trump. On the other hand, Donald Trump has basically guaranteed that serious lawyers don't want him as a client because he doesn't pay, number one. And number two, he keeps asking him to do illegal stuff with him. And he keeps literally dragging them into criminal court. That's a problem. Serious lawyers don't want that. But on the other hand, former president, hey, there's a chance you'll make history. So the question was, are Trump's lawyers truly idiots? It turns out the answer is yes. Here's Midas Touch.
This is Michael Popok, Legal AF. Well, the old theme song from Sopranos is playing in Joe Tacopina's mind. I woke up this morning. Joe Tacopina woke up this morning, and he filed a motion for mistrial in the E. Jean Carroll case. He's not even done with the cross-examination of E. Jean Carroll, but he's so getting his backside kicked by both E. Jean Carroll and the judge that he did something extraordinary. It's not even mid-case. He's not even, it's 1/3 of the case through, and he thinks he's got a grounds for mistrial, which he doesn't. So let me start with the fresh news. The judge already denied the motion for mistrial. Done.
remarkably quickly, by the way. Remarkably quickly. I also do want to say I've been busting Michael Popok's balls pretty significantly. And I did want to play this because I feel like I want to show and not just give lip service to the fact that I think Michael Popok is a great legal analyst, a great communicator about these things. But I actually show him doing it. This is a fantastic breakdown of one of the silliest things I have ever seen a professional put their name to. Here it is.
Vaughn cross-examine the witness. She's your witness, Mr. Tacopina. Finish with E.G. and Carol. But let me tell you how we got there and why this shows complete weakness and a self-awareness, I guess, that he doesn't completely understand by Joe Tacopina's point, that he's conceding that they're losing. Let's start with this as a trial lawyer. No perfect trial. There's no such thing as a perfect trial. You're not guaranteed by the U.S. Constitution a perfect trial. You're guaranteed a fair trial. And that's what the judge has been giving him. He just doesn't like the Tacopina Habba side and Trump side, just don't like that they're on the losing end of ridiculous motions that have no support in the law at all. All we've learned so far at this point in the trial and in the motion that was just filed at 5:01 this morning is that Joe Tacopina doesn't have a command of the English language, of grammar, of syntax, and of English literature. Because most of what he's arguing about, if you have to believe that what you put in your motion first is most important to you, then what's most important to him is that Joe Tacopina can't ask a proper question in a federal courthouse. And
just give it a moment. I'm telling you, every moment of this leading up to the revelation is worth it. I thought Popok was being a little bit snooty talking about English literature, but no. He's dead on. This is an amazing piece of rake stepping.
Get an answer back without having the other side properly object and the judge sustain the objection. That's not on them. That's on you. Yes, this is an adversarial process. Everybody has a role. The judge is the umpire, calls the balls and strikes. The other side gets to object. And then the objection is either sustained or overruled. And then you move on. See, Joe Tacopina normally plies his trade, if you want to call it that, in a state courthouse, doing criminal law, where there's a lot more leeway, especially in New York State. I've been in New York State Supreme Court, a lot more leeway than in federal court. Federal court, you better mind your P's and Q's. You better dot your I's and cross your T's. You better know your federal rules of civil procedure. You better know your federal rules of evidence. If you don't know them, the other side's going to remind you what you're missing. And you got to figure out from the judge how to make objections. Some objections, the judge is okay with what's called a speaking objection. Sometimes it's you got to put the smallest amount of words on the record so that the jury doesn't really know what's going on. Some judges require you to cite by the rule number 403, 401, 412, and then makes decisions based on that. But so the objections here are basically that Joe Tacopina, because he can't ask a proper question, keeps getting slapped down. Then he gets frustrated because he can't figure out how to ask the proper question, and he blames the judge. I'll give you an example. If you ask a question of a witness like Joe Tacopina has been doing, you can bring out the following under question and answer. Your position, Miss Carol, is that you and Donald Trump were in a dressing room about 8 foot but 12 feet wide at about 6 or 7 o'clock at night on a Thursday night. Is that right, ma'am? Yes. And that during that time, you say at some point you were pushed up against the wall, right? Right. And that you injured your head. Yes. And that at some point my client sexually attacked you. Isn't that right, ma'am? Right. But nowhere. Your claim to the jury is there was no one around you. There were no other people there. There were no other salespeople. There were no security guards. Nothing. Right, ma'am? Right.
Again, so that is how he was supposed to ask these questions. Now listen to how he did.
Okay, that's a proper cross-examination. What you can't do is what's called argumentative questioning, which is sort of what it sounds like. It's not that you're arguing with the witness. It's that you're doing your closing argument. You as the lawyer are making statements that are just for argument's sake for the jury, not really to properly ask a question to the fact witness. So you would say, so you want this jury to believe that there are not a soul around, not a person around at a very busy department store that prides itself at having service.
So I'm just stressing here. That's Joe Tacopina, Trump's lawyer, not understanding what he is supposed to be doing, like what his job is, how that's supposed to look. That is hugely embarrassing. I did not jump on this Tacopina's an idiot train when he was doing the various interviews, yada, 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 on TV. Thank God for just the sake of, I don't know, dignity around the world. The collective embarrassment not radiating through the planet. That he's not doing those anymore, but it's obvious now he does not understand what his job is supposed to be, like what a lawyer is supposed to be doing in that position. And obviously he's better than Haba because he's talking instead of her. Jesus Christ. I assure you it gets worse. It gets, in fact, hilariously worse in about 30 seconds.
Prides itself. Objection. Argumentative. Where is your question, Joe? That's an argument. And then when you get shot down because you're asking argumentative questions, and it happens to me, happens to other people on Legal AF that are practicing lawyers, you just regroup. You try to get away with it. It didn't work. So you say, let me rephrase. And then you rephrase. So your position is that no one was around on 5 o'clock in the evening in the lingerie section of Bergdorf Goodman. Right, ma'am? That's it. And you move on. And then you make your argument, the actual argument in closing time, like 5 or 6 days from now. You say, you can't believe that, and then whatever argument you want to make.
That's what you do, for the record, if you know what you're supposed to be doing, if you know when you're supposed to do that. If you don't, apparently, like Joe Tacopina, you just blunder through. But it gets worse because now he goes into, and let's jump ahead a little bit. Now he goes into something that you don't need any education at all to understand. All you need is an understanding of the context in which you asked a question. Here it is.
Top of it, your second big argument, assuming that your arguments in your motion match what you think is the most important, is you don't understand English literature. You wanted to make a big deal, Joe Tacopina, in front of E. Jean Carroll and the jury, that she had in her memoir a chapter or a section about her plan to send all men to Montana for retraining. That in the literary business is called satire. You learned that, I think, in 7th grade. She didn't really mean that. But just like The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood is satire, and there's a legitimate political and other discourse in society by having satirists, that's satire. Why you wanted to continue to bring that up? What you wanted to show that she's nutty, she's kooky, she's off her rocker because that was her plan. You didn't get it with satire. If you didn't get it, the judge got it, because the judge said, as you continue to drill down on this ridiculous line of questioning, the judge sort of stopped it in its tracks so we can get to real evidence in the case, and said, she said it was satire, like Jonathan Swift's A Modest Proposal from 600 years ago, right, ma'am? And she said, yes. And the judge said, move on. Move on, it's satire.
Let's pretend for a moment that you don't know what a modest proposal is. You've never heard of this particular document, this pamphlet written by Joseph Smith. It wasn't 600 years ago, but still. Let's just say you don't know what that is. Fine. That's fine. But you would assume that the judge does know what it is because they mentioned it. Right? And you would assume that the judge has an understanding. So again, it doesn't require that Joe Tacopina know what this document is. And as we're going to find out, he doesn't. He draws the wrong conclusions, folks. And unfortunately, he doesn't have the ability to realize that he doesn't understand the document because his brain isn't wired correctly.
You really mean it?
Let's take a quick break to talk about
No!
our next part.
Jordy got me. Oh, I was looking for that like a hawk. All right, yeah, I got to get to this. I literally was trying to catch my breath laughing. Here we go.
And then Joe went home and looked it up. Or his trial team looked up Amada's proposal. Again, I think you read about Amada's proposal in 7th or 8th grade. Maybe it's 9th grade. And Amada's proposal, Jonathan Swift wrote a whole satire about solving the Irish poverty problem by eating Irish children. And so he doubled down Tacopina in his motion, and he writes in the moving papers, Judge, I read Amada's proposal now. Like now, he just got around to it. And it was 300 years ago. And that was about Irish poverty and Irish cannibalism. This was about sending all men to Montana for retraining. I don't see the link. Really, Joe? You don't see how that's analogous in the world of Sat?
Okay. Look, I'm not saying that you have to know what Amada's proposal is. I'm just saying if you Google, like I assume Joe Tacopina did, if you Google Amada's proposal, like the first entry that will come up, like Google the word satire Amada's proposal. That's what the judge was talking about. Like the first entry that comes up is how a modest proposal is like the standard example used when talking about satire. What is satire? I don't know where he was going with the Handmaid's Tale thing. Satire is basically like a sarcastically written document. How about that? It is putting forward in a modest proposal the idea that to solve this Irish famine that was going on at the time, the Irish should just eat their own kids. And of course, it wasn't to be taken literally. It was as if to say we're being so cruel to the Irish right now, so callous to their suffering, that this is the sort of thing we're putting forward. You don't need to understand all that. All you need to understand is that it's satire. And if you don't know what satire is, okay, you got to look that up. But to then come back to the judge and say, oh, wait a minute. Amada's proposal has nothing to do with this. It's about Irish kids and cannibalism. He's just demonstrated that he literally doesn't understand the concept of satire. I don't know how he's ever going to be taken seriously anywhere ever again. Like literally, I don't see how anyone can look at this person and say, yeah, I can trust them with my serious business. I mean, it would be difficult to overstate how dumb you have to be to get told by a judge that the person you are questioning in court is using satire like example X, and then you go look up example X and not what the definition of satire is, and come back at the judge with a, I don't know, book report from a kid that didn't read the material.
And that's your grounds for mistrial? And then, so he didn't like that. That's unfair and prejudicial, the whole satire thing. And then he doesn't like the fact that the judge isn't letting him vigorously cross-examine her, and outside the presence of the jury, threatened to go after Eric Trump because Eric and Donald Trump were busy social media posting about things they shouldn't be talking about to try to influence the jury, which is a crime. And they didn't like the fact the judge warned them after it came to his attention that even though Donald Trump is too busy to show up at trial, a fact that is not lost on the jury. Let me repeat, juries hate when parties don't show up for trial, especially one this important on these facts. So the jury.
Going to answer some questions from the wicked audience, because I think these are good if you're not familiar with them. And I'll do a more dignified face for Popok there. In fact, you know what? let's just make this Q&A time. Why not? We'll have some fun with this. I really wanted to make fun of Takapina there above all else. So look, let me just put a cap on the Takapina talk. Guy's a knucklehead. I'm shocked to my core that Trump can't just get like a normal, like a regular lawyer to represent him. There are so many lawyers in the United States of America. How on earth can Trump not get just somebody of average competence? From what we've seen of Trump's lawyers getting wrapped up in legal mayhem, be it telling the federal government that they'd handed back all the documents when they didn't, working out deals with fake electors on Trump's behalf when that is straight up treason. I guess it shouldn't surprise me, and yet it does. What can you do about this? Just maintain in your head a sense of who the villains are and how unserious they are about the truth. The fact that Takapina's out there trying to get this whole case thrown out because he doesn't understand what satire is should tell you a lot about what the opposition to decency is all about. They do not care about truth. They are just looking to make a stink. They only care about duping people, tricking people that will fall for a lot of noise and not listen to a lot of details. And they're hoping, they're making a gamble that enough people in America will refuse to have the courage to look at facts, to honestly assess things, that they can get away with these crimes. That's a shame. We'll find out if they're correct. But the neat thing is, in a court of law, facts still matter. And now Trump's business has been brought in front of a court of law. It has been in New York. It has been with E. Jean Carroll and Alvin Bragg, and it will continue. It's going to happen in Georgia. And hey, let's hope that the Attorney General finds his spine, because it might just happen at the federal level as well. All right, let's address some questions I saw from the Wicked community. Franny P says Takapino is doing what Donald tells him to do because Donald is the smartest. Yeah, that seems to be the general way of things. I saw Off Time saying you expect Trump to be jailed. From this civil rape case, no, I don't believe so. And the reason why is because it's a civil case. So money is all that can change hands. However, do I expect Trump to be jailed based off of the recent wire fraud allegations where he stole from people donating to his what was it? His call to fight the 2020 election results? Yeah, actually. I also expect him to be sentenced. I'm not sure in what capacity in his attempts to overturn the election in Georgia. I expect the same in Michigan, and eventually I expect the same in all of the fake elector states, of which there are 7. Then I expect also him to be found guilty in everything to do with January 6th. As we've already seen, he knew that the election wasn't rigged in any way. We already knew that beforehand, before he even before the first ballots were cast, he was saying it's rigged. He said the election would be rigged in 2016. He said consistently that no election where he lost would be fair. So he's a liar. We already know he's a liar, and we already know that multiple companies that he hired to go find evidence of voter fraud found that there was none. So is he going to be found guilty in these things? Yes, and it's going to be a question of how just America is with his sentencing. If he gets serious sentences, then America is a just country. If he doesn't, America's an unjust country. We're going to find out. Oh, mercy me. Interesting. Off Time says LMFAO. I'm curious to know what you object to in that line of reasoning. Let me know. There's a slight delay between the live stream and the comments, but yeah, type it out. Let me know what you think is inaccurate about that, and I'll explain my reasoning. Douglas Connors, just popping to... Oh, hey, Douglas! Just popping in to say hello and send some love from Canada. Hope everyone's doing well. It's the Eager Beaver. Good to see you. Yeah, we are doing well. We're enjoying the suffering of some bad people, and it's been a hoot. Oh, good. Off Time says still no evidence of a crime. I don't know, Wicked Foxy Dragon. I think that was on topic. I'd asked a direct question there. I'll answer what I saw, which was Off Time saying still no evidence of a crime. I'm not sure what you're referring to. Let me just list off the abundant evidence of multiple crimes that we've seen. There is the fact that everyone in his staff at one point or another told him there was no evidence of voter fraud, with the exception of John Eastman and Rudy Giuliani. Wicked Foxy Dragon, I see. New rule. This ain't your fault. This is on me for not saying it. If I tap in, let me tap in, because it's good content. Further evidence of crimes. The phone call in Georgia, wherein he pressured Brad Raffensperger to find him 11,780 votes. Literally one more vote needed. Literally one more vote than Joe Biden, so that he could just have the state. He wanted those votes found. There is what he got impeached over, the phone call to Volodymyr Zelensky. There is a plethora of evidence to suggest now that the donations he solicited from his own people were never intended to fight for the 2020 election. In fact, 90% of them were free for his discretionary spending, and it looks like he spent them on whatever the hell he wanted. There is not only evidence that he took documents that he didn't have permission to take. He's admitted it. He has admitted it multiple times. He also didn't give them back. He's made it crystal clear that he did indeed take those documents, and that he was requested to return them, and he tried negotiating with the government over whether or not he would obey their order. They were never his to have. They did not belong to him. You can say Joe Biden and Mike Pence did the same thing. I agree. They did do the same thing with the taking of the documents. The difference is they gave them back when asked, and they gave them back real quick because they weren't theirs to have. So when you say no evidence, man, there are mountains of evidence. I mean, there is the entirety of the January 6th report. It's on Audible. There's literally an audiobook of the January 6th report full of evidence. There's testimony from Cassidy Hutchinson. I mean, there's mountains of evidence. And I don't think, let's be real here, I don't think you seriously don't believe there's evidence against Donald Trump. I think you simply don't want to believe that Donald Trump should be subject to the same laws the rest of us are. And if that's the case, I got to ask you, why is that? Why don't you want Donald Trump held to the same standards that anybody else would be? I not only want Joe Biden held to the same standards that I am, I want him held to higher standards. Because I don't get to ride around in Air Force One. I don't get a limousine with Secret Service protecting me. I don't get all those perks. I don't get my name in history books. I don't get any of that stuff. Well, in exchange for all that, plus a cool $400,000 a year, the President of the United States should be held to higher standards because they have a position which is, I'll let you in on a little secret, super GD important. We can't have them playing around with democracy. We can't have them undermining it. We cannot have them abusing their power. So if you really want the swamp drained, you're going to have to accept the fact that most likely some of the swamp creatures are claiming to be on your side. Let me just be real with you. I'm assuming off time that you're a MAGA enthusiast. Let me give you an honest compliment. One thing that is probably true of you is that you despise Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all those politicians. And you know what? That's something I like about you. So do I. I just wish you would consider also despising Donald Trump and Mike Pence and Ron DeSantis. Because guess what? They're also scum. And if you suddenly decide that they're not of a higher class than you, they're not of a caste that is above you and me. If you suddenly decide that those punks are your employees and you got to get control of them, I think you're going to find that your life gets better. Hey, speaking of, who in the wicked community would like to see how we could F with a bad governor? I'd like to show you something special. This is a comedian I've been watching more and more of, and I got to tell you, I highly recommend this fella. So there was a law recently passed that makes it illegal to be homeless. That's right. It is illegal to sleep on public property. Now, you might think, wait a minute, if somebody's forced to sleep on public property, why are we kicking them when they're down? Oh, is it because there's plenty of housing available that is free that these people can be in but choose not to be? No. It's just to be cruel to homeless people. But there does appear to be a clever way around that law. A way to protest it, while also saving yourself some prison time. Let's let this comedian break it down for us.
I made a new law to make camping on public property a felony. Why? Governor Lee said he was worried about the issues of people on public property. Say that again, but really slowly. This feels like a pretty blatant attack against homeless people. Oh yeah, we haven't really tried to hide that. This is clearly just a way to strip voting rights from poor people, and to put them in prison for up to 6 years. I really hope someone finds a way to make this backfire on you.
Really, really love this guy's bit where he does the round table. Yes, this is, of course, Tennessee once again. Just letting us all down.
Did I hear we're looking for ways to get around the law? No, please. Tennessee just made it a felony to camp on public property, and it's punishable by up to 6 years in prison. Now, Florida, before you say anything, quick question. What's the punishment for trespassing on private property? It's a misdemeanor? 30 days in jail? It seems to me like if I had a choice between 6 years in prison for sleeping in a park or 30 days in jail for sleeping in the governor's backyard.
Oh. So there you go. If you happen to be homeless in Tennessee and you're worried about getting 6 years for daring to sleep in a park, well, Governor's Mansion's backyard only gets you 30 days. That's a great way to change that law. Toot sweet. Oh, mercy, mercy me. Well, folks, it is a 2 for Tuesday. That means we got another one of these coming down the hatch. So I'm gonna go get that put together. That fella, by the way, who did the humorous take on how to make a law backfire, that's Ben Brainerd, and I definitely recommend you check him out. Link is in the description. You will not regret it. He is worth a hearty chuckle. Thank you so much for joining me on this first of 2 streams on 2 for Tuesday. The anti-corporatist says maybe it might be public. One way to find out for sure. I'm not saying these are good options. I'm just saying they are options that are available to you. At the very least, I would find it hilarious if the governor was inundated with consequences for his actions. It'd be a fun change of pace instead of the people he governs getting hit with them. Oy gavul. Well, I'm headed out. I'll see y'all in a very short amount of time for our second stream on 2 for Tuesday. This has been WYCD Wicked. That stands for what you can do. Thank you, mods. Thank you, Wicked Senate. Thank you all for joining me today. I'll see you in a minute. My name's Jake, by the way.